Hey guys, RJ here, and I'm really excited to bring you guys another Netflix original series review. This time we are focusing on Frontier, starring Jason Momoa, and if you guys didn't know, that is Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones, so let's go ahead and get this one started, shall we? So guys, before we get too far into this review today, I want to go ahead and say that there are spoilers ahead, so if you have not seen all 6 episodes of Season 1 of Frontier, a Netflix original, please shut this review off here, go watch all 6 episodes on Netflix, which will run you about 5.5 hours, and then come back here and continue with this review. Alright, now that spoiler warning is out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it. Jason Momoa is starring as Declan Hobb in this show. He does a really good job of being a rugged outdoorsman. He's exactly like this in real life. I mean, obviously, I think he's a lot more fun and playful than he is in this show because he's a cold, dead on the inside kind of person now, and all he thinks about is revenge. But in general, I think his character is casted really well because in real life, Jason Momoa is a grade A badass, and that's exactly what he's asked to be in this show. So they do a great job on casting him. I do think that there are times during the show where they ask him to go a little too far out of his comfort zone for acting. I thought maybe a few of the torture scenes that were going on with Lord Benton could have been done a little bit better. And I felt like it was almost 4. I just feel like he was pushing outward a little bit too hard. I wasn't as into the crying scenes, when he's up there, up by his hands and stuff. I wasn't in the moment the way I probably should have been on a moment within the show in that last 5, episode 5 and 6, that I probably should have been a lot more emotionally invested in the show. And honestly, I wasn't. So moving on from there, you have a lot of other good characters in this show. Gracie, Captain Chesterfield, Lord Benton, Clenna, Michael. I thought they were all cast really well. It's definitely a very heavy British English cast, or at least they have English accents. And I thought Michael Smith got played really well. I thought Clenna was a little bit annoying. I don't know if anyone else got that, and I know that they mean that to happen a little bit, like when she's coming from England and trying to get used to the wilderness and stuff, but I thought her character seemed like she played it a little bit more annoying than she probably needed to. I liked her at the beginning when she was still, fun and hadn't been captured and stuff. But as soon as they bring her over on the ship, she goes from being this smart girl that wouldn't be tricked because she's grown up on the streets, which people that grow up on the streets know exactly, when someone's trying to pull shit over on them. But yet the second she gets in the house with Lord Benton, she feels no suspicion towards him at all, compared to when she came over on the ship and, probably got touched by a couple of dudes. It makes no sense to me where she goes from this character that's supposed to be smart and independent to all of a sudden falling down a hill, breaking her ankle, and then blaming Michael for it. So, I thought she was okay, and I thought some of the other supporting characters were okay, but I feel like they left out a lot of people within this series, and maybe that's because it's such a short run. It's only 6 hours, so you have to squeeze a lot of things in there in a small amount of time. But I do feel like they left a few supporting actors in the dust. I thought that the woman from the town is who took over the Browns' business, basically. I thought she was really well played. I can't remember her name at the moment. I thought she was really well played. The girl that ends up, partnering with Mr. Grant or trying to take him down or whatever she's actually planning to do. I really like her. She was a very strong supporting actor for me. At no time did I feel like she was out of place. I feel like she kind of owned the screen wherever she went. And I really liked her a lot. And then I really liked Grant a lot too, and his henchmen. I thought they both played their parts well. I was definitely scared of him when he came over and he just shot the guy. I was in no way prepared for him to do that. So that came out of nowhere, and I really like the way they keep me surprised with him. And then Grant's behavior, after Grant doesn't get his way with something, he kind of throws a temper tantrum, or he freaks out, or he sends his henchmen off to kill people. And I do like the way that they kind of do this without other characters watching, because it's he seems so calm and collected and cool in front of people, and then the second they leave and they don't give him what he wants, he acts like a 5-year-old girl. I really liked some of the supporting characters. I just feel like, and this is going to be my biggest gripe of the show by far, the plot development for this show was horrendous. They nail so many things in this show, so let's keep going with things they did right. Moving on, the opening song. Oh my god, that was so good. I love the way Netflix has done this. They've clearly mastered openings. You have House of Cards, Narcos, Marco Polo, Medici. There's a lot of good openings that Netflix has come up with over the last few years. I wouldn't say any of them are on the Game of Thrones level, but I gotta say that they clearly have something going on. The way all the pieces come together on the board and they're all like firing at each other between the HBC and the Indian tribes or the Native American tribes and some of the other Frenchmen and the frontiersmen. And yeah, I really like the way that they have that song opening up. It builds like a really big energy moving into the beginning 5 minutes of each of the episodes. And then I really like the way they also did the visuals for some of these things. They kept everything so real, and I think it's because they had a lot of help from the Discovery Channel, because, they say that it's produced along with the Discovery Channel, and I think the Discovery Channel really tried to keep them factually accurate on some of these things. I mean, at times, obviously, they have to bend the rules a little bit because they have to keep you interested as a viewer, as a modern-day viewer anyway. And I think in general they did a really good job of keeping things consistent. I felt like all of the Native American camps seemed really realistic. I thought Fort James seemed way more realistic than like other movies that paint out those early forts to be, because a lot of movies try to paint those things as like, oh yeah, I mean, it was a little bit rough, but people could get by and they had towns and it was all really well organized. But in actuality, people got murdered all the time and those cases would go unsolved by the governors and local authorities. And I like the way that this show kind of translates that. There's a very rough edge to this section of the country. There's a wilderness that hasn't been tamed yet, and that's a huge theme throughout this show. Is that no matter like people like Jason Momoa or Hobb, like those people are never going to be tamed. You're never going to be able to control them. Just like nature, they're always going to do exactly what they want. And I like that theme a lot, and I think it kind of resonates through a lot of the different characters. Michael kind of shows that, and even the Lake Walkers show that at times too. And so I like the themes that they carry through with it. Moving on from that, I'm trying to think visuals, sound, some of the supporting characters are really good. Jason Momoa was pretty solid as a casting choice. I thought at times, as I said, I thought his acting performance maybe left me a little bit wanting, but I'm really not sure if it's that or if it's the script and plot for this show. And, a lot of people are going to be like, RJ, how can you change the plot? It's based on, what happened in real life. And yes, like to a certain extent, clearly they've added in some characters and some storylines that didn't actually happen or not factually relevant to the time period. But I just think that the way that they introduce a lot of these characters and then they go back and don't cover anything. They have this whole like episode and a half about Lake Walkers, and then they don't show anything for the rest of the freaking season, and it makes no sense to me, because all of a sudden, we're waiting for them to come, and everyone's saying, oh, they're going to come down and kill everybody, and then none of that ever happens. And then the British are like, oh, well, HBC, we're going to have to go march against the Lake Walkers, and then that never happens. And I think it's really strange that like Chesterfield and Benton and all of these HBC members are so focused on him, on Hobb, but when push comes to shove, they should clearly be focused on things that are not. They openly state like multiple times that he does not have the largest army, he does not have the most followers. It's just Benton holds a grudge against him, and it seems like all of his men know this too, but nobody wants to speak up. Even Chesterfield, like 99% of the time, is just down there coddling the balls for Lord Benton. And one of the bright spots, though, that I gotta mention in this script and plotline was the disruption factor of Johnson. When Captain Johnson comes in, which I find it so funny that they chose Captain Johnson. I don't know if that's like historically accurate or whatever, but I love that they brought in Captain Johnson to then seduce with both bartendees. And I thought that was really funny. He's very religious, and he only falls for the Virgin Maid Act. And I thought that whole scene with him getting caught with her was absolutely perfect. That was a great moment in this show. That made me laugh, it made me interested, and it made me care about the characters because it shows that they're human, and I feel like that's part of the problem. So moving on with my issues with the script and plot, Lord Benton. I thought the actor, I can't remember, Al something, I think, he did a very good job of portraying, I think, the character he was told to portray. But for most of it, because he's an older gentleman and because, I don't know, maybe it's because he's not physically fit, I don't fear him. Do you fear him throughout the show? Because, like, I think he's creepy. I think he's super creepy, but, like, there's not, like, that raw fear where, like, if I saw Jason Momoa coming out of the woods towards me or Declan Hobb in the show, I'd be running for the hills. If I saw Lord Benton walking alone coming out from the hill, you know, I wouldn't be scared of him. I'd think it's an old man on the way home from his shop. So, I don't know. I know that's like, you know, ageism. Okay, RJ, you're doing ageism. But no, I just, in general, I wasn't scared of him. There weren't really that many moments within this series in which I thought he was actually a good villain, because he's not after anything important. All he did was torture Declan Hobbs' family and murder them, and, you know, he's murdered pretty much anyone that's gotten in his way, but there's no redeeming quality about him. And on top of that, his actual fear motivation is really just slicing people up, which I feel like the frontier is already so deadly. Would that many people actually be afraid of a man like this? Like, if they're worried about bears coming into camp and, you know, eating their faces off, I feel like that's a lot more to worry. And the cold and, like, everything else that has to go with dealing with the frontier in this section of North America, I feel like the last concern of mine would be whatever the hell Lord Benton wants. I mean, Chesterfield at times, like, does challenge him, and I like that within the show, and I like the plotting he does with Grace behind the scenes, but in general, I just feel like they leave out so much stuff, so much care. I think another 2 episodes on top of this would have made it way better, but I just, in general, I feel like they left a lot of things out. They left a lot of ropes not tied, and then the ending itself was one big, you know, open-ended thing for the end. I just... He gets away and he's stumbling and then he's falling up the mountain and then we get nothing. So, yeah, I don't know. This show has me really confused. This is probably one of the most torn I've ever been reviewing a show so far on YouTube. I feel like most of the time when I watch a show, within like the first like hour and a half of watching that show, I know what I'm going to give it as a review score. This show I've had to think about for a couple of days now, and I still haven't really found exactly what the words that I want to put out there for the review, but I'm going to go ahead and give this show a 7.5 out of 10. And the only reason I'm giving it that much is because, one, I felt like they kept a lot of historical significance in this show. And I feel like a lot of shows that actually date back to this time period normally don't. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a good amount of extra credit for that. And then on top of that, they at least provide me with the building blocks of a story that I like. There's decent humor with the father or the priest. I love him. He's Priest James or whatever it is, or Father James. Yeah, he's great. I love everything with his scenes where he's, clearly obsessed with a chick with the huge boobs. And I like parts of it. And they have a good base for perhaps a season 2 if it gets renewed, which I'm not sure this one will. But I just feel like they fell short in too many different areas to give anything above an 8. So I'll give it a 7.5, and I really do like Jason Momoa as this character, as Declan Hobb, and I want to see him come back. I just hope they spend a little bit more time. Maybe they'll have more budget to work with next time where they can build out some of these plot points, but I feel like they just jump around too much, and I know that that's part of the game when it comes to, this guy's going here to go sell pelts, and then over here, and then over here, but, like, Grant just randomly showing up from Montreal at Fort James, I don't know. There just seems like they skip a lot of things that probably need to be discussed, or they need to get background knowledge to, and I mean, in general, like, even Jason Momoa's scene with Benton where he's describing what he did to his family, we have no context. We have no context with that whatsoever because we've never seen his daughter, we've never seen his wife, never seen his son or whatever. We have no context. It's a lot harder for the audience to connect with a character and understand his pain unless you have context. And I know Netflix knows this, so I don't know why this was kind of omitted throughout this entire show, but get on it, guys, okay? All you have to do is give us context for each of the characters, and then we can feel towards them. That's why we end up falling in love with the bartender who owns Gracie, because she owns the bar and stuff. I really like her at the end of this, and I find her ridiculously attractive. But I really do like her throughout the show. I think she does a really good job of keeping things balanced. I just feel like some of the other plot points that they bring in just don't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. There's no flow to the show. And yeah, overall, guys, 7.5 out of 10. I'm not going to go back on that for now. Let's just go ahead and keep it at that. Anyways, guys, that's all I really wanted to talk about for Frontier today. I thought it was a good show with some flaws definitely in there. And they're not even that hard to fix. So I think Netflix could come back with a season 2 if it gets renewed and do a lot better job. Maybe they'll have more cash on hand to do this. But in general, I thought it was a decent show. It's still better than a lot of cable television out there. So don't be afraid to go watch this just because I argued against this plot a little bit and some of the scripting that it uses. But in general, this show does have a lot of things to bring to the table. So if you guys have seen it, let me know down below. Let me know in the comments. What did you guys think? Do you guys think that there definitely needs to be some more character development? Who are your favorite characters so far? Who are your least favorite characters that you're, waiting to die off in the next season? And let me know your thoughts down below. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. All of those links are down in the description below. And until next time, guys, we'll see you soon.